Hello and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Calling all hairstylists and makeup artists. Would you like to have a strong wig knowledge? A solid foundation to build your wig styling skills on? Would you like to gain the respect of your cast, colleagues, and employers when it comes to wig work? And feel more confident in knowing how to handle, style, and apply wigs? Well, do we have a treat for you? Introducing Last Looks Workshops. Come down to Beverly Hills and join Jamie Lee and Rob Pickens in the Last Looks Workshops experience. Spaces are limited, so be sure not to dilly-dally. For more details, visit lastlooksworkshops.com.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today on the Last Looks podcast, I'm speaking with makeup and hair designer Nadia Stacey. Nadia shares with us where she draws her inspiration from for her design work, what it was like winning a BAFTA for the film The Favourite, and how continuing your education as an artist is a must.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Nadia.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's great to have you here. Now, I would like you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Oh, okay.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Nadia, and when she grew up, she wanted to be...
A radio DJ.
Ooh, yeah, all right.
She actually said it as well. Grown up Nadia's still got this, like, oh, I'd love to do that.
I mean, it seems like a pretty cool job. When you listen to like a great radio station with an awesome disc jockey and you're like, God, you just get to chat to an invisible audience and play music all day. This can't be bad.
Yeah, that's my dream. Also, most of them do like 2-hour slots, don't they? So they go in for like 2 hours, play music, drink tea, and then go home and have the rest of the day to do what they wish. I mean, it's perfect. Yeah.
I know. I'm almost wondering now that you say that, did they have another job?
Yeah, maybe. I'm talking, you'd have to be really successful one.
Yeah.
Another job on top of it.
I always wonder too how much control they have over what they can play.
I did some work experience once when I was at school at a radio station because that's what I thought I wanted to do. And
yeah.
And they have like playlists, so they have like an A, B, C. So, you know, stuff that's really kind of big in the charts and then stuff that's not as much. And so it is slightly controlled. So I don't think you can go completely off piste. I'd probably have to be one of those that's like 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's what I always thought as well. I was just like, I just got to be 2 or 3 a.m. and then I can get away with whatever because who's listening?
Exactly.
That's awesome. So at what point does that shift for you? I mean, you obviously went and did work experience, so you were reasonably serious about it.
Well, you say that, but the thing is, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I always wanted to do something kind of arts-based. I've always been very arty, into music, and I play a lot of musical instruments. So at one point I was thinking, oh, maybe I want to do something with that. Never, ever did I think about being a makeup artist. And if you knew me, I'm, I hardly ever wear makeup. I'm very unlikely, I think, as a makeup artist. I just did every job imaginable when I left school, just sort of didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I didn't train until I was 26, I think 27 to do makeup. I basically met this woman who said to me that they did these courses up at Yorkshire TV, and then you trained with them and then you could go out on their shows as well, their TV shows. So you got kind of on-set experience.
Okay.
But it was a really small group, and she said, it's really hard to get on and you won't get on. You'd never get on the course. And I thought, right, just because I'm a bit pig-headed, I thought, well, I'm going to get on that course. Sort of, and went for the course and then still felt like I was really unlikely because I saw what everyone else was turning up like with, full faces of makeup done perfectly. And I was thinking, oh no, I've made a mistake. And I got on the course, and then the first day, I honestly, within hours, I kind of thought, this is it. This is what I've been waiting to do, because I'm a big film fan, and it was a way to kind of merge all those loves and passions into one thing, to kind of create characters for film. And I guess I never really thought it was a job, I mean, of course it is, but I didn't really think that was a thing. And I grew up in the Midlands, like towards the north of England, and I, from a not very from quite humble background. So there's no one in film, and no one, it didn't feel like someone like me could make it in those kind of areas. So the rest is history.
I love how it's all kind of random.
Oh, totally random. But I generally feel like that's kind of my path. tends to be. Yeah, it just was really random. And then I just loved that course, and then I got the bug, really, and I just kind of went absolutely. I think because I was older as well. By the time I finished that course at 28, 29, by the time I came out, I just thought, I have to do this now. I can't keep kind of bumming around and doing different things. I need to concentrate on one thing, and so I just put everything I'd got into it.
So how did you move on from the course? Like, what was next after that?
When we were on the course, they said, there's these 2 trainee positions at Emmerdale, which is like a long-running soap here. And you get like 3-year kind of work experience on this soap. And everybody on the course had said, oh, Nadia will get one of those, and then I wonder who's getting the other one. So I kind of bought into that too. I thought, oh, great, if everyone thinks I'm going to get one of the places. And I was looking at places to live near where it films. And then it came to the announcement, and I didn't get it. And I remember going home and just being absolutely devastated and kind of crying at my mum, saying, that's just such a waste of time. What am I going to do now? And I just didn't know. And then I saw an advert in, I think it's the Stage newspaper. They were looking for people at the National Theatre to work in the personnel office, which obviously isn't anything to do with makeup. But I thought, if I get myself to London, because I lived in a very small kind of ex-mining village in the Midlands, you're not getting a lot of films made there. So I thought, if I could move to London and maybe try there. And so that's what I did. I moved down to London, and then I worked there in the day. And then in the evening, I worked at the Royal Opera House at the ballet, dressing ballerinas, and keep poking my head in the wig room and the makeup room. And then eventually at the National Theatre, I went to see the woman who ran the wig department, and I told her my story and why I was there, and that this wasn't actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in hair and makeup. And she let me go in at lunchtimes and kind of help to wash the wigs. And looking back, that was incredible. Like, the fact that she did that for me was sort of amazing. Then eventually she gave me a shot on one of the shows in the evening. And from that, I got a job at Mary Poppins in the West End.
Awesome.
And so I started in theatre, and it just kind of snowballed from there, really. And then but I did work experience on absolutely everything I could get onto all the time. I mean, I hope nobody's listening that'll get in trouble. It's all right now, but I used to pull sickies at the National to go and do a day on something for work experience, or anything I could do to kind of network and meet people. So yeah,
that's awesome. So that first course that you did, was it? Did they have hairstyling and stuff as well as makeup?
Yeah, so it was a media makeup course, and so you learn all aspects of media makeup, and then in the evening you did your MVQ in hairdressing. So you did kind of all the kind of first levels in cutting and that kind of stuff in the evening. So yeah, it was a really good all-rounded course. I guess it was the closest thing to it was like the kind of ex-BBC training. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know if they still do it, because I think a lot of the courses now are kind of private and, pretty expensive to go on. So if that had been the case for me back then, I just don't think I would be here, because I don't think I'd have been able to afford to do it.
Yeah, but luckily, good timing.
Good timing. Yeah.
And I love how you look back on that woman getting you to come in at lunchtimes and wash wigs and all that kind of stuff, because it's, I mean, absolutely, yes, it was helping you, but can you imagine how much it was probably helping her as well?
Yeah, I didn't look at that side of it. Suddenly, hang on a minute. I look back on it like kind of Mr. Miyagi and Danielson. Like, she used to train me for Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just used to. I remember making me dress this wig into an Edwardian style, and then she just shook it, and all the pins fell out of it or the grips fell out of it. And she said, well, that's no use to anyone on stage, is it? And I'm like thinking, oh no, so I had to start again. And so
just watching it crumble in front of your eyes.
yeah, and being so cocky about it before, being like, da-da, with my wig, and then it just lots of it. It was useless.
Well,
But,
how's he going to learn, right?
exactly. It was great training.
That's awesome. So doing a lot of stage work, when did you start moving into more screen work?
So I took, so when I was in the theatre, obviously you're working in the evenings a lot. So I had a lot of my days free, and I did some work experience at what was the BBC wig store. I went and just helped work with them. And while I was there, the lady that ran it, Philippa, she said to me, oh, there's a makeup designer coming in this afternoon. I think you should meet her. Anyway, this lady came in. I didn't know her at all. And she said, oh, I'm doing this film, and if you want to come along and do some work experience on it, you can. So I was like, absolutely, yeah, of course. And it turned out to be Lisa Westcott, she won the Oscar for Les Mis. She did Madness of King George. I mean, amazing work. I think she's like for me, she's like the greatest. And she said to come out and do this work experience. And it was on Miss Potter, which was Renee Zellweger and Ewan McGregor, a period piece. And I remember going at 4:00 in the morning on a night bus through London while everybody was coming out of clubs, and I'm trying to find my way to where this set was, and then turning up on the set and seeing all the horses and horse and carriages, and the whole square had been dressed in kind of Edwardian style. And I just remember standing there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm on a film set. I can't, And I was just incredibly lucky to be put in a crowd room with the most amazing people. You often find some of the most talented people are in those crowd rooms.
Oh, yeah.
And lots of them all together, So, and I just was suddenly kind of surrounded by this group of women that are just amazing. And they all started kind of using me, really. And like one of them offered me a trainee job on a TV show, like a detective series. And I think it was a really long running one as well, months of it. And so I kind of moved in to do that, and then it just snowballed from there, really. And I just kind of kept working up the ranks, going from like trainee, then moved up to assistant, and then, through the years kind of just moved up to designer. So I always say I was incredibly lucky, but I'd really put myself in a lot of situations to network. And I really made sure I knew who people were and followed up any lead. And yeah.
I mean, when you're in a crowd room like that and, fresh meat kind of walks in, you are just like, oh, let's see what this one can do. And when you're impressed, you're like, oh, you can come and help me on.
Yeah.
So obviously you did something to impress all those people for them to come and ask you to help them on their jobs, which is awesome.
I think I was just super, super keen. There was, if they were on set and I didn't have anything to do, they would come back and their pin box would be sorted out, and I would have cleaned their places or cleaned their brushes, or I always found myself a job. I kind of made myself indispensable. It was really kind of important to do that, because I do remember being in those crowd rooms and thinking everything I've just learned in college has completely gone out of my head. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, because it's very easy in a college environment when you're working on your friend to then be in the crowd room when you're surrounded by the best of the best, that you go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, but I think my kind of keenness must have taken over, and I did something right.
Well, it would have shown, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I love that over there that you have that system. I mean, is that the trainee assistant kind of moving up the ladder, so to speak? Is that something that is officially in place, or is that just a way of working that everybody has adopted?
I think it's kind of officially in place. I mean, when I get a team, that's, I'm crewing for something at the moment, and it's trainee, junior. And on bigger films now, you have like a trainee, a junior, experienced junior, then an artist, then supervisor, so there's all kind of different levels. And I suppose that it's what's not official is when you move up. That's just kind of down to you or who you're working with to move you up, But yeah, it is. But there's more kind of rungs on the ladder now than when I started. I don't think there was the kind of junior, experienced junior that we get now. I'm very happy that I did that route and kind of tried all those different areas going up, because I think it gives you a good foundation.
Oh, Absolutely. I 100% agree. I went through the same thing in New Zealand. So, and I'm just so happy that that's the way it happened.
Yeah.
Being able to work under such experienced artists who can just show you the way, and it's just it's
Yeah.
priceless.
Yeah, and I always say to people, my who's coming on as my experienced junior on this next film, I said to her, "Are you kind of ready to move up?" Because she's brilliant, and she said, "No, I'm happy where I am at the moment. I'm really happy." And I said, "It's quite good if you get to a point where people are so impressed with you at that level that they're like, no, you've got to move up now because you're so good." So you've really kind of maxed out everything you can do at that level. Don't kind of run before you can walk, because then you're really kind of gathering lots, and people will be really keen to help you at those levels as well. So, don't move up too quickly, I think.
Yeah, I agree. What do people say? Run before you can walk. Yeah.
Oh,
Did you just say that? Or you just feel like I'm sure some people get thrown into, well, they don't get thrown in, they get offered something and they take it, and then they feel like they're absolutely drowning.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happening now is because it's so crazy busy here that I think lots of people are getting lots of opportunities that are above where they've been, and I think that's going to work in two ways. You're going to get some people that absolutely smash through and are just fantastic, and other people that feel like they've taken on too much. So it's like, I don't know, it's a risk, and it might pay off, but for me, I'm just glad that I kind of covered all the bases, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up like that, you must have had some mentors throughout that time that just went above and beyond, I suppose, for you. So
I think Lisa was definitely one of them. Lisa Westcott was definitely someone that I really kind of looked. I mean, she retired maybe about 5 years ago now, and she gave me her kit.
Oh, wow.
And it was a full lockup of her kit with continuity Polaroids and, every kind of wig I picked up. You'd look at the label and it'd be like Judi Dench or, like some great, just,
oh my gosh.
It was like a sort of museum of hair and makeups, and all her first hairdressing scissors, and they're not usable, but I've got them in my office because I just love that I don't know, I feel like I want some sort of magic through her into by osmosis to go into me. But she definitely was someone. I just think she kind of instilled her kind of approach to it was that, this isn't brain surgery. We're not saving someone's life. It's incredible. We're incredibly lucky to do what we do, and the film or whatever the project you're working on is really important, but we're not saving anyone's life. And I think that's actually quite a good thing I've kept with me.
Oh, it's a good thing to remember, I think, because the pressure kind of gets to people, and they, they'll kill themselves to to make something work, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy. Or going home in tears because you didn't get a chance to go and do checks on the wig, or and all those things that happen to us all the time. And it's a lot. And I think this industry, the kind of assault at times on your physical and mental health is a lot. Yeah. So to kind of have that in mind, that it's okay, it's a film at the end of the day, or, a TV show, then she definitely instilled that in me. And I love her work. If I watch anything that she did, there's a kind of realness to it. There's hair out of place. There's wigs look a bit fuzzy, or and I love it. I really kind of hope that I've carried some of that through into what I do. So she definitely was one. And the women that worked with her, like she had supervisors, Julie Dartnell and Sarah Grisbo, and all these kind of women that kind of worked within her team. So they definitely kind of shaped that early part of my career and what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, I think.
That's amazing. I have to go back just for a little second, because I had like a spike of anxiety when you said that she handed her entire kit over to you. And I was like, oh my God, one day I'm going to retire and I'm going to have to let go of all of my stuff.
Believe me, this has been this worry in my head. Yeah.
Which is insane, because I mean, wow, that's pretty amazing for her to just completely let that go. Even her first pair of scissors, like, I don't know if I could let those go. I don't know if that's silly of me, or...
I know there's something quite kind of cathartic, though, if you do think that way, isn't there? I don't think I could. I think I'd be like, no, I can't. But, but she was for years going, oh, I'm doing this one and this is my last one, darling. This is the last one. And then, she was doing that for ages. But yeah, she gave me the whole lot. But I think she knew I would absolutely treasure it as well. And I do, and I have, I have all the books. Sometimes I open a book and it's got her name in the front of it. And it's just like, oh gosh, I love it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who want all my. I mean, there's so much stuff in a storage unit that I'll have to go on one of those shows, and they like bid for the storage unit. Like, oh no, nothing in there we want.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of books too, because I follow you on social media and have figured that you're quite the book collector, like reference books and stuff like that, which is amazing. You've introduced me to some good ones. And now, is that your normal route for reference and inspiration?
I definitely think it's my first port of call. I have quite an extensive book collection. So yeah, I did that thing on during lockdown where I put like a book on per day, a reference per day, and which lots of people have said has cost them a fortune. So it's very bad.
It's worth it though. My God.
Yeah, that's definitely my first kind of port of call, and I love street photography books. Because I think and I love finding those books in charity shops that are like working men's social clubs in the 1970s or something. And you get someone that sat in there drinking a pint, still got their rollers in their hair. And I think, oh, that's amazing. There's such characters in there.
Oh, yeah.
So I love that. And I watch loads of films. So I look at what kind of other people are doing or what people have done in the past, or music I'm really inspired by as well. I'm really into music and I like to think quite a big knowledge on that. So that definitely inspires me. And like, not a better example of that than the Cruella the Future that was the Sex Pistols font across her face. And it was like, I remembered the front of the album and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I could do that. And so I love that came from that. It's, you can be inspired from anywhere really. So yeah, it tends to be all that kind of stuff. But I still love going to, like when I did The Favourite, I went to visit all the palaces and that kind of thing. I just think something might spark from somewhere that you can add into your design.
Absolutely. Now, out of all your reference books, do you have a couple of absolute favourites?
Oh, I think the Richard Corson book is like the Bible. I mean, I pick it up on every single film I do, and I always find something new in it that I can use, and it's just incredible. So for anyone that hasn't got it, the Richard Corson book is amazing. It's really worth getting. What else do I love? I'm reading a book at the moment called Textures, which is the history of and art of black hair, and that's really interesting. I'm really kind of learning a lot from that. But photography, I think, is a big thing. I love like Homer Sykes photography. I put one up the other night on Instagram, and Vivian Maier, her documentary and her street photography books, I love. So yeah, I'd be hard pushed to pick one, but I definitely go back to the Richard Corson.
I love it. Now, you've got a pretty incredible filmography. So let's chat about some of the projects that you've done. Like, what are a couple of faves and why?
Oh.
I mean, hard to say. They all...
It really, really is hard to say, because I look back on it and I feel super lucky what's on my resume. And I in the beginning, I tried to be quite strategic about it. I didn't want to get kind of pigeonholed in period films or, one particular area. So I kind of wanted to make sure I ticked boxes. So I made curveball choices every now and again, and I love that about it as well. It's kind of, I think my heart would be screaming out Tyrannosaur, which is the first film I designed, and it just changed everything for me. I was living in a flat in Shepherd's Bush and I was absolutely broke. I was barely making the rent, and I had just finished a job and I'd been looking after the actor Paddy Considine, and I had a great time on the job, but it finished, and I'm sure like all of us have felt, well, that's it. I'm never going to work again. What am I going to do? I can't stay in London. I can't make the rent. And then he phoned and said, do you want to come and do my film? And I said, yeah, who's designing it? And he was like, you are, his exact words were, you are, you plum. And I said, and I was like, me? And he said, yeah, I think you can do it. I think you're ready to step up. It's my first film to direct. Mm-hmm. Come and do it with me. And so I did. And it was, I think we had about £500 in budget and no makeup, like a room, no makeup bars, me plus a trainee.
Yeah.
It was really kind of basic, but it was amazing. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And it's where I met Olivia Colman, and we're still really good friends to this day. And Paddy, and we became like such a little family. And I think they really shaped where I kind of went after that, you know, what I did. And it was the first time I saw my name on a cinema screen when we went to Utah to Sundance, and I went to the BAFTAs with it, and it was just an amazing experience all around. So that holds a special place in my heart. I did a film called Pride, which I loved because it was the first time that I'd done something that was about real people, and the actual real people sat with me with their photograph albums showing me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, this is when my friend Julie permed my hair, and this is, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And you know, I just felt like it's a real responsibility to tell these people's story properly. And it was about gays and lesbians in the 80s that were marching with the miners strike. And it was, you know, it was a really important story. It'd taken 20 years to get this film off the ground. So you felt, you know, a real kind of sense of pride, pardon the pun, but to, you know, to do it and to not make it was also set in the 80s, to not make it that kind of pastiche and a bit cliche, you know, to do it properly. And
yeah, I mean, having all their reference and being able to speak to them is like, oh my God. So
it was amazing. We went to cut somebody's hair, cut her fringe, like went to do it well, and she was like, oh no, we would have just cut it ourselves. So the actress just held it and cut her fringe herself, and I was like, great. That's how it would have looked. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's those little things, and being able to let go and actually let that happen too is amazing.
Yeah. It was a real kind of, I always see it as like, it's like there was a shift. I was doing lots of like independent British films, which I absolutely loved, but then Pride was like a move up. There was big crowd scenes and stuff like that. And then The Favourite obviously was like incredible and kind of a game changer again. There's been honestly, I've been really lucky. I've sat on the set of The Father and watched Anthony Hopkins play the piano in between takes. You know, there's been some incredible films. So yeah, I could choose any of them and tell you a lovely story from all of them. So
I love that you have such fond memories. It's good.
Yeah. I've been pretty lucky actually. People always go, "Who's the worst person you work with?" And I wouldn't say anyway, but I genuinely, I'm like, I don't really have one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So going back to with The Favourite, now you guys won a BAFTA for that, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how was that experience for you?
It was just absolutely kind of mind-blowing, because I was really not I mean, on paper I really shouldn't have got the job in the first place. I think there was lots of more experienced people up for it, and so to even get it in the first place and then to do the job was just incredible. And then when the kind of that sort of weird ball starts rolling around the awards season, I was so naive to it all. I was like, oh, there's no way. And it, and then I was at work and making someone up, and someone said to me, "You've got a BAFTA nomination." I was like, "What?" You've got a BAFTA nomination. I was like, I can't believe this. And when we finished the call, and my dog was at work with me, and I walked outside to take the dog onto the grass outside. I called my mum, and I was like, Mum, I've got a BAFTA nomination. And just at the same time, I had to pick up dog poo. And I remember thinking, this is such a leveler, like, to keep your feet on the ground. Like, oh my gosh, don't let this get away from you. But it was, I love it. It was amazing. We just went for it. That me and my partner went, and we just spent the whole weekend just going, like, whatever happens, just kind of drink this in, because it's so much, so great. And then everybody was saying Vice was going to win, which won the Oscar that year. So I put like my bag on my lap. I had like the BAFTA program. I had everything on my lap, and I was sat somewhere pretty awkward as well, like to be able to get out. So when they said my name, or when they said The Favourite, I was just like, what?
You're like, what?
Yeah. So I was like throwing everything off my lap, trying to get out, get to the stage, all the time thinking, don't fall over, don't fall over, don't fall over.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
The pressure of not falling over and making a complete dick of yourself.
it was honestly, and I think if somebody had said to me right there and then, when you get up there, what's your name, I wouldn't have known. I just remember looking down and seeing Prince William in front of me and thinking, what is going on? Yeah, and I so I said something, and then went backstage, and they as soon as you go backstage, they hand you a glass of champagne, and they handed it to me, and my hand was going so much, the adrenaline must have just kicked in. But I had to take it off me, I'm going to drop it. So it was, but yeah, it was pretty, pretty amazing. The whole kind of that whole award season was really fun, and like the fact that it won lots of other things, so we all celebrated together, was just, it was great, really good.
Oh, that's cool. So after having that happen, what kind of effect do you feel it had on your career? Did you notice the shift?
I've thought about this a lot, and I guess the answer is I don't know, because things were happening and I was working and getting kind of good stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I won it on the Sunday, and I know that there were more scripts in my agent's inbox on the Monday. I know that. And I know that since then, if ever there's a press release for a film that I'm working on, you are part of that press release. It's like BAFTA winning Nadia Stacey. So I guess it's a kind of currency,
Right.
know. But the most important thing, I think, is what it's done for me personally, is that I'm really, really grateful to have it. And I'm I've got awards on my shelf, and that they are precious to me, and I'm very, very lucky and grateful. But I think from a place of having them, it's easier to have them, obviously, and say this, but I just think people shouldn't get too caught up in it all, because I do think it's kind of like putting an apple against an orange. It's like, we're artists, and how can you judge different people's art against other people's art, and I think it's all lovely and it's great to be recognized, but I think, not to get too kind of bogged down in it, because I love bands that no one's ever heard of, and it doesn't mean they're not as good musicians as someone that won a Grammy. It's like, I guess it's kind of made me appreciative, but also not to get caught up in it too much, just to keep my head on what I'm doing in terms of like the project and making the art, if that doesn't sound completely wanky. But,
no, I don't think so, because I feel like there's some people out there that unfortunately kind of take the job that they think might get them an award.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
I know people who've got like a notification, like alarms to when their notifications come out, and I just think that way madness lies. You like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to go and do a job that, I don't know. There's so many other things on a list of why I would want to accept a job or go for a job well before any of that pops up. So
yeah, can you imagine doing that job that's full of prosthetics and full of wigs and full of this and full of that, and you're like, this is it, and that just gets completely ignored, and you're absolutely knackered, and you're like, oh my God, I could have been at home. Thank you. So I just think I think it's given me the freedom to look at it in a different way, and but if someone wants to give me an Oscar, I'll happily have it, don't get me wrong. But I feel like kind of in a healthy place about it, and I when you get to there as well, I think you find so much more joy in what you're doing, because you can just concentrate on the project, and
that's very true. Yeah, and remember why you do it, and you don't do it for that.
Yeah, I mean, like after Cruella, I don't think a day has gone by that I haven't had someone send me a picture of them or their kids or somebody with one of the Cruella makeups on. And that's where, for me, that's mind blowing. And that's like people taking something you did and recreating that. And that's awesome. So I find more joy in that, than awards, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I love it. So having all of these fun, exciting jobs that you've done, that you've enjoyed for one reason or another, what's been something that has been incredibly challenging, whether it's an entire project or just a wig or a makeup in specific, or a location that you shot in? Like, what do you think back and just think, God, that was one of the hardest things I've done?
I mean, some of those early kind of independent films, I remember hailstones hitting my face and being on top of like some hills in Yorkshire and thinking, what am I doing? Freezing, there's a lot of those memories. But I think the job I've just finished, actually, I just got back from Budapest last weekend, and I think that will go down as one of the most challenging, because for every reason, because I was away from my family for 4 months, and I don't do jobs away. I don't choose to do jobs away. And but it was the same director as The Favourite, Yorgos Lanthimos, and I'd always said whatever he was doing, I would do. And it was with Emma Stone again, and kind of a no-brainer project. But every single day was a new big challenge. And being away and not having your full team around you, even though the Hungarians were fantastic, but not having your kind of shorthand go-to team. And being able to just run to the Wigs place that or it was really, and the hours, and I think that not being able to come home and sort of decompress on an evening or a weekend really made a difference. I felt like I've been at work for 4 months and I haven't stopped, so that was really tough. And also I looked after Emma again, did her hair and makeup, so to design something like that and look after the lead is so hard. And it was the same on Cruella, it was just, that's the way it worked out, and that's tough. There's not a minute to kind of just have some downtime and figure out what the next few days are. It's just constantly, you're on set all the time, so it's that's challenging.
Absolutely. I feel you there. I definitely understand the working away, and I find it so funny that artists kind of coming up and they're like, I want to get jobs on location, and it's just like that's great, but if you're anything like me, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be like, you have to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then every other job is away and you're like, I just want to be home.
No, and I never thought I'd get to a point where I'm like, I'm sick of hotels and I'm sick of room service. Normally you're kind of like, oh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
And you think, no, actually, this has stopped being exciting. I just want to be at home, and wheeling a suitcase out to your car is just tedious after a while. So yeah. That sounded like really boo-hoo, poor me, but
no, but it's hard. I mean, especially when you have like family at home and all that type of stuff, and you just I don't know whether it's an age thing or a time thing, or you just you just want to be home.
I think lockdown did that as well a lot. I think it was hard for me to be away after lockdown. Really kind of obviously I was at home and I hadn't had that time at home for a long time, and then so to go away from it kind of really was really tough. Tough. Yeah.
I've done one job away after lockdown, and I could not believe, and it wasn't even for that long, it was only like 2 months, but the amount that I missed my dogs was insane.
Oh, honestly, this job that's just gone, the worst thing about it was my dog. I kept saying to my boyfriend, I was like, yeah, but I can't tell him. I can tell you. I can FaceTime you. I can FaceTime the family.
Yeah.
Tell him when I'm coming home. So yeah, that was the hardest thing. And honestly, now I think I'd turn down a job if I couldn't. If I could away from. If Nick is at home, no, I'm not doing it.
That's too funny. I want to back up a little bit to Cruella. And were you doing her makeup and hair?
Yeah.
So I just have a curious question about those wigs.
Oh, yeah.
Were they human?
Yes, they were, but they were another massive challenge. So the problem is with that hair is that one thing that was really weird that lots of us didn't, I don't even think it will make any sense when I say, to have one side black and one side white, when you're trying to dress something and look at it, it looks off because you can't, your brain just doesn't look uniformed. It's really strange. And then the texture of the hair from the white to the black was completely different because the white is so bleached out that it's really, really coarse, almost like yak hair. And then you've got this hair on the other side, on the dark side, that's completely different. So if you put it in rollers, it would do completely different things on both sides. It was an absolute nightmare, honestly. Like,
I completely understand. No, I mean, I haven't gone through that, but now that you're saying it out loud, because even visually for the viewer, well, for me watching it, it does kind of mess with your eyes because it is the opposite ends of the spectrum on one one head. So it does read differently on both sides, but it's on each side, but it's like my brain understood why, because they're completely different colors, like the density and of the dark, and then all the lightness, of course, in the white. It's that must have been
it
that
was
would have been hard.
honestly, I never ever in all the prep and I never even considered that for a second that was going to be a thing.
No, I wouldn't have either.
And it was the biggest thing. It was like, hang on a second, why is this not looking like we think it's going to look? It was a real challenge. Yeah, it was tough.
I think the first thing that would have come to my mind in prep would have been like, how careful do I have to be when I wash this?
Oh, honestly, everything you did with them, and sometimes if you used too much heat on the white side, you take it away and it suddenly looked yellow, and you're like, oh my, no, this is. And we didn't have. I think in the beginning and for the most part of it, we had 2 black and white wigs because they couldn't source the hair to make it. Nobody could source the white hair, so it was a real challenge. You can hear it's creating some sort of PTSD in me.
Well, now you know.
And then when lockdown happened, Disney contacted me and said, could you dress, I don't know how many it was in the end, I think 30 wigs for franchise. So they send them out and put them in, I don't know, like Universal Studios or wherever, around the world. So I was in my garden during lockdown dressing, I think, about 30 different Cruella wigs. So I felt like I never got away from them. I was just with them for a long time.
It's so funny. I feel like there are certain things that you walk away from on a job and you're like, oh, glad I don't have to do that again.
No, but there's nothing.
And then it follows you somehow.
Well, yeah, they're going to make another one. I'm like, if she dyes her hair, that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's too funny. Oh my goodness. So was that film too, like what film that you've done do you feel had your biggest, like largest scale with background?
That one for sure. I think there was about 6,000 extras, and we had, but also every time you saw them, it was a completely different thing. You'd walk in that crowd room and see like Vikings walking around for the Viking ball, and then you'd see women dressed as Cruella somewhere else, and then over somewhere else you'd see 18th century wigs, and then you'd see somebody with 70s hairstyle. So it wasn't like, oh, this is huge amount of extras, but they're all roughly the same kind of thing. It was completely different every day, like different. It was almost like 10 films in one. So it was huge. I mean, thank goodness Julia Vernon, she runs a lot of big crowds. She's just incredible, a real kind of unsung hero. I could not have done it without her. Every time she showed me the fittings pictures, I was just like, perfect, yeah, great. So she really did do a lot of my work for me. But yeah, I think that was the biggest in terms of crowd for sure.
So when you start a job like that and you know that the numbers are going to be like that, are you just like thinking I have to hire somebody who can wrangle this? I mean, that's number one. But do you leave it to them to tackle it how they normally run crowd, or do you like to have some type of input into how it's run?
I don't have any real input massively into, they tend to run stuff past me, but I don't really have much input into how they want to run it in terms of the logistics day to day. They're so, the people, those kind of people that you ask, they run it like clockwork, so they know exactly what they need and how to set it up and how many people they need and how many they need for fittings and that kind of thing. So they're way better advised to do that than me. So I just get involved in the kind of designing of it, and make all the mood boards and do all the kind of designing of the looks. But in terms of the logistics and the running, they run it.
That's awesome.
But I mean, that's definitely how it's been for bigger stuff for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. It's so nice that you have those people that you can go to and just hand it over and be like...
I mean, they're the best. It's kind of, I'm doing another Disney film in the new year, and Charmaine Fuller, she's another crowd supervisor, and she's the same. I just kind of go, right, you figure out what you need, and I'll tell you how I'd like everyone to look, and then you just run with it, and yeah, they're great. So if I get anything with that kind of size crowd, the first thing to do is go, right, can I get one of those two to come and do it with me?
That's
Because
amazing.
yeah, it's almost like a whole department of its own, really.
Yeah, I think so, with those bigger numbers, or even just if the
Yeah.
hair and makeups are involved in some way of being, big.
Yeah, I mean, like with the one of the scenes in Cruella, there was like 200 Cruella wigs, women in 200 Cruella wigs, and that's like a whole kind of operation to deal with on your own. So yeah, they were great.
That's awesome. So when you're putting your team together, your main team, what do you look for in your artists?
I always think of it as like a kind of sports team, like a football team or something. You need people that cover all those bases. So, you need your defense, you need your strikers, you need your, so I need someone who's good hairdresser and good with color, people who are good with wigs, depending on what the film is, obviously, good makeup artist, a good organizer. I think you can just kind of put it all together to make the team. You sort of look for people who are strong where you're weak and vice versa, and then you've covered all your bases, and once I've done the kind of basis of that and I know that we're covered all round, then I really just want good people around me. I think the hours that we do are, like I was saying before about like the kind of physical and mental health, I want people around me that are supportive and supporting each other and that are inspiring me as well. I love people that are really into what we're doing. I love it if they've come in and they've watched the other films that the director's done, or the last film I just did, it's based on a book. And when one of the girls came out to Budapest, she was reading the book. And every time I saw her, she had the book. And so I'm very kind of inspired by that. I just want good people. I don't like gossips. I don't want any dramas. Anytime I've had that on a team, I've just thought, it's just not for me. I want people who want to be there, and who are very, lucky, feel lucky to be there, and just good eggs, I think. And if they're really talented, that's great.
It's a good way to put it. That's awesome. So when you are doing these longer shoots that are, long days, a lot going on, and you've got your cast, I want to talk a little bit about skin routine. So, I mean, skincare is obviously important because that's your canvas that you're working on. And I mean, sometimes your actor is there almost as much as you are doing those same type of hours, and they're on all day. So how do you tackle looking after their skin?
Well, I think obviously what you're saying is the kind of it's the foundation to everything, isn't it? It's kind of, you need a good skincare routine for a good makeup to sit on top of. So I kind of really got into it actually over lockdown. I started watching lots of IGTVs and dermatologists, and to really kind of understand product and what people should be using. And I found that really interesting because and kind of got a really good skincare routine going myself, which is something I'd not really thought about a whole routine before. I just kind of used what I used and what worked. And I feel like getting that information has helped because I know of at least a couple of actors that have come to me with pretty bad skin and I've turned that round. Not me exactly. I've got a really good dermatologist that I send people to, but I love the French pharmacy brands like La Roche-Posay, and I think they're always good, kind of safe products for people to use because they're so into their skincare. It depends what the situation is and what we're using, but I know that it's definitely changed the way that I approach things because I noticed how different I approached it on this last job, which was obviously post-lockdown, and how much I'd got into it because I'd really got all the actors with a proper routine. I'd got one of them using acids and one of them, changed their moisturizer completely. And so it just depends what we're doing. But I think it's more important to me now than it's ever been, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for you to educate yourself on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that I hadn't thought about it before. But then I guess that's just, like you're constantly educating yourself on everything, aren't you? And things are changing all the time and products are changing all the time. So I try and watch as much stuff as I can to continually learn about products or techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something you encourage your team to do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love when they kind of are doing courses, and lots of people now do online courses as well. So try and encourage them to do that. We really want to do, there's an Afro hair course by a guy called Kevin Fortune, and we really want to do his course. And I actually really want to do a kind of bespoke one for the team for before the next job. I'd love it if we did that, because I feel like it would be really lovely if it was our team. You'd be in a very safe space to feel like you could mess up if you do, and ask questions and not feel kind of worried about not knowing. Yeah, I think it's really important. And there's a real misconception as a designer as well that you should know how to do everything. And the thing of that is
Yeah.
a lot of the time, yeah, I mean, and a lot of the time you aren't as hands-on as the people in your team. So you aren't trying new techniques and you aren't trying new things because you just don't have the time to do it if you're designing a huge job. So I think it's really important to keep continually kind of pushing your skills. And when I do have some time off at some point, that's what I would love to do. I'd love to do some more courses just to kind of up my game.
Yeah, I love the idea of rallying the troops too, to kind of all go and do the same course together. But that's awesome. Nice team building.
I think it'd be really good. You'll feel in a safe space, because I think most people some people might be frightened to put their hand up and say, I don't understand that. So it's, if you were amongst kind of friends, it'd be easier to do.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I don't know if it's boring, but professional ethics. Just because I feel everything, well, yeah, no, just what are some professional ethics that kind of resonate strongly with you? I think it's just sometimes professionalism on set can kind of get a little bit lost. And I just love to know what people kind of, how they like to work and what's important to you as a head of department from your team.
I think it kind of, like that complacency and lack of professionalism can happen quite quickly because we're in this kind of fun, creative space. And, sometimes your actors will come in the morning, put music on, and it's fun and nice. And I think if you're not careful, I see it in trainees and juniors a lot. It kind of happens very quickly, and you have to kind of pull them back on that, because you have to keep remembering where you are and that you are at work. This is work. And, I often say, like, if you were working in a bank, you wouldn't be behaving like that, So I think the absolute basics for me, like timekeeping, is an absolute, I'm just such a stickler for that. I don't see, unless there's a real issue, things like timekeeping and just being polite and just kind of reading the room. But I think that comes with choosing the people, like I was saying, that want to be there and are feeling lucky to be there. Then that goes hand in hand with how they behave. But it's hard. It is one of the things that I find is kind of hard to keep on top of, because you want to create a kind of fun, safe space, and then sometimes people take advantage of that, and it's kind of sad when it happens. And I do feel quite strongly about those things, and that team represent me as well, and so I want it to be professional. I keep saying it, but we are extremely lucky to do what we do, and so just for them to remember that.
Absolutely. I think people do get comfortable and, as you say, complacent, and you can kind of slip a little bit. So it's I think that's a good quality in a head of department, to be able to pull people back into reality of, like, this is work. You're at work. This is a professional setting. We can still have fun, but you have to behave a certain way. And it comes more naturally to some people than others, I think, too. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think something that happened with me, that I went a few years ago, was that I made myself a company. And so I often look at it as like I'm a company delivering my product. I know it sounds incredibly boring, but it's like, I often think like I'm a business and I'm delivering something and delivering for the film. So I want people working for my business that want to be at the top of their game too. So you need to turn up with those ethics, and most of the time the people you choose, you can see it in them, they have it. But yeah, you can see it slip sometimes in people.
Yeah, I mean, you're human,
Yeah.
Now, I'd love to know, coming up through the years and working with all these different people, is there one piece of advice that has really stuck with you?
I think it would have to be what Lisa said about, like, we're not, this isn't brain surgery. I think what she said to me, just to kind of to keep that in my head. I think that kind of goes with, I always think my mum was a care nurse, and so she worked in care homes for years and was administering drugs to people and was, would hold their hands while they died, and, some really, really hard stuff. And I know as a trainee, I was earning more in a week than she earned in a month. And I've always kind of had that in my head when all these amazing things happen and you're, dancing on the makeup truck with, I don't know, Mark Ruffalo, who loves a dance on a makeup truck, that you have to remember that, you have to kind of remember that we're incredibly lucky, but this is a film and you can do your best. But yeah, it's not a job like that, it's not saving someone's life. So I think it's good to have that kind of that thought with you. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's something you pass on to your team?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm quite vocal about that as well. I think my team that I have around me at the moment, and they're kind of extended team because other people, they get onto other things and you get them back. But my team of people, that my core ones I would go to, they're all very like that, I would say. I feel like I've really kind of gathered some good people around me, and they're all very like that, and I try and kind of instill that into them. I think, yeah, I'm kind of quite vocal about stuff like that. I've been thinking about that recently, actually. I feel like I'm being quite vocal about lots of stuff. Like I really want kind of fairness in the industry for like hair and makeup departments, and so I feel like I keep sort of putting my head above the parapet a little bit. But my team seem to respond really well to it. They're like, no, this is amazing. Like, you keep, because I have a platform to say things, I feel like I should. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, you don't want your team to walk around feeling like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders either. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you want them to be able to go home at the end of their day and have a life and not be stressing about what happened that day or what they've got to do the next day. Or, yeah. I wanted to ask, what one tool or product would you never want to be without?
Oh, anybody that knows me or has ever listened to anything I do will be like, we know exactly what she's going to say, because I always say something. Aveda Fixer, a liquid gel by Aveda. I could not be without it. And every time I think I'm going to use another product, I go, you know what we need? Confixer. It's always the thing. So yeah, that would be my product.
What do you just use it for almost everything, or what how do you use it?
Yeah, I use it for almost everything. I particularly use it on men. So wet the hair and then put a little bit of Confixer in, and because it's like a liquid gel, then you style it and it's kind of in the hair, so you don't need to put like lots of product on top. So I always just feel like it gives you that, I guess it's like mousse, basically. It's like putting mousse in. It just gives you that bit of oomph in the hair before, so when you style it, it's kind of already doing a bit of work for you. But I just love it, and I love the way it smells. But you know what? I think it's come from Lisa. I think she introduced me to it. So maybe it's just like a sort of emotional crutch that I've hung on to all these years. I can't let it go. It's been on every job for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you find something that works and you like it, you hold on to it and pray that they don't stop making it. Exactly.
Because that happens all the time, doesn't it? You're like, no, this is so good. There was an anti-shine everybody loved. I can't remember which one it is now. But that disappeared, and I remember people just going into like panic about it. What are we going to do? So yeah, luckily Aveda have not stopped making it. So yeah, that's my product. That's my product of choice.
I love it. And who would you like to hear on the podcast?
Oh, that's difficult, because you've had some amazing people on here, and like the immediate ones that I think of straight away, you've had.
That's good.
The ones whose work I always kind of look at and think they're fantastic. Do you know what I think's amazing though? Is I think a lot of these designers who they're kind of a bit unsung really, because they're the designers that they kind of come up doing those comedy sketch shows, and the work in those is so huge with no money, and you never really get a lot of thanks for it. And there's a designer called Kate Benton. She actually runs Pam, the makeup store here. And so everybody knows her here. I just think her work's incredible. They did a version of The Christmas Carol for the BBC last Christmas. I thought it was some of the best hair and makeup I'd seen on TV in a long time. And I was kind of blown away by it. So I just think she's had a very varied career and also runs the store is where we all go for everything, I think. So she'd be really interesting. And similarly, there's a lady called Janet Horsfield that does lots of contemporary dramas, actually, TV contemporary dramas here. And I just always believe the characters. I'm never taken away from it. I always find the most believable hair and makeup, and that's why I love her work too. So yeah, they're two that I really like to watch their stuff.
That's awesome. Nadia, thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved having you on the show. It's been great.
Oh, you're so welcome. I've loved it. Thank you. It was really good to talk to you.
You too. For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks Podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.